The emergency klaxon screamed through the corridors of Luna Station like a wounded animal. Commander Sarah Chen sprinted down the metal hallway, her boots echoing against the deck plates as red warning lights bathed everything in crimson. "Talk to me, Rodriguez," she barked into her comm unit, bursting through the doors of the command center. Lieutenant Miguel Rodriguez looked up from his console, his face pale. "Ma'am, we just received a priority transmission from the diplomatic vessel, Harmony's Dawn. It's not good." Sarah's blood turned to ice. The Harmony's Dawn carried Ambassador Elena Vasquez, Earth's first official diplomatic representative to the Galactic Confederation. After decades of isolation, humanity had finally been invited to join the cosmic community. This mission was supposed to be their golden ticket to the stars. "Put it through," Sarah ordered, her voice tight. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the diplomatic vessel. But instead of Ambassador Vasquez's warm smile, they were greeted by chaos. Sparks flew from damaged consoles. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows. And there, in the captain's chair, sat a figure Sarah didn't recognize. The alien was tall and thin, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. Its large black eyes stared directly into the camera with cold intelligence. When it spoke, its voice was like grinding metal. "Humans of Earth," the creature began, its words translated by the universal communicator. "I am High Inquisitor Thane of the hegemony of pure thought. Your ambassador has been judged and found wanting." The camera panned to show Ambassador Vasquez's lifeless body slumped over her chair, her eyes wide with terror. Sarah's fists clenched so hard her knuckles went white. Around the command center, her officers stared in stunned silence. "Your species seeks to join the Confederation with promises of peace and cooperation," Thane continued. "But we have studied your history. We have seen your wars, your violence, your endless capacity for destruction. The hegemony will not allow such chaos to spread among the civilized worlds." The alien leaned forward, its black eyes boring into the camera. "This is our judgment. Humanity will remain quarantined to your single world. Any attempt to leave your solar system will be met with immediate annihilation. Consider this mercy. Your ambassador died quickly." The transmission cut to static. For a long moment, nobody spoke. The only sound was the hum of the station's life, support systems, and the distant rumble of Luna's mining operations below. Rodriguez was the first to break the silence. "Commander, what are your orders?" Sarah stared at the blank screen, her mind racing. Elena Vasquez had been more than just an ambassador. She had been a friend, a mentor, and the best hope humanity had ever had for a peaceful future among the stars. Now she was dead, murdered by aliens who saw humans as nothing more than dangerous animals to be caged. "Get me a direct line to Earth." "Command," Sarah said quietly. "Priority Alpha clearance." "Yes, ma'am." As Rodriguez worked at his console, Sarah thought about Elena's last words to her before departing for the Confederation capital. "Sarah, if something goes wrong out there, promise me you won't let them write us off. Humanity deserves its place among the stars." The communication channel crackled to life. "Luna Station, this is Admiral Harrison. We saw the transmission. What's your assessment?" Sarah took a deep breath. "Sir, they've declared war on us without even giving us a chance to defend ourselves. They murdered our ambassador in cold blood and threatened to destroy any human ship that leaves our solar system. I understand your anger, Commander, but we need to think carefully about our response. The hegemony clearly has superior technology. Starting a war we can't win would be suicide. With respect, sir, the war has already started. They fired the first shot when they killed Elena." Sarah's voice hardened. "The question is, are we going to roll over and accept their judgment, or are we going to show them what happens when you corner a human?" There was a long pause before Admiral Harrison replied. "What do you have in mind?" Sarah looked around the command center at her officers. These men and women had dedicated their lives to exploring the unknown, to pushing the boundaries of human knowledge and capability. They had not come this far just to be told they didn't belong. "Sir, I recommend we activate the Ghost Protocol." Another silence. Longer this time. The Ghost Protocol was Earth's most classified military program, developed in secret over the past 20 years. It was humanity's insurance policy against exactly this kind of scenario. A plan for asymmetric warfare against technologically superior enemies. Commander, you're talking about going up against an interstellar civilization with technology we can barely comprehend. The Ghost Protocol was designed for hypothetical scenarios. The scenario isn't hypothetical anymore, sir. They killed our ambassador and threatened our entire species with extinction. If we don't act now, we're as good as dead anyway. Sarah could hear the weight of decision in Admiral Harrison's breathing. Finally, he spoke. Ghost Protocol is authorized. God help us all. As the communication ended, Sarah turned to her team. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to show the galaxy what humans are really made of. Rodriguez, send a coded message to all Ghost facilities. Tell them it's time to wake up the shadows. But as her officers began their preparations, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something important. The hegemony's attack had been too precise, too well coordinated. How had they known exactly where to find the Harmony's dawn? How had they penetrated the ship's defenses so easily? Someone had betrayed them, but who? Imra Chapter 2. Ghosts in the Machine. Deep beneath the Sahara Desert, the temperature was a constant 68 degrees Fahrenheit. But Dr. Marcus Webb felt a chill run down his spine as he read the encrypted message on his secure terminal. Ghost. Protocol activated. Prepare for immediate deployment. Authorization Harrison 77 Alpha. Marcus had been waiting for this message for 15 years. Ever since he first joined the Ghost program as a young xenobiology expert, fresh out of MIT. He had hoped he would never see it. Area. Activate security protocols. Lock down the facility, he commanded. Acknowledged, Dr. Webb, replied the artificial intelligence that ran the underground complex. Facility is now in full lockdown. All Ghost assets are being brought online. Marcus stood and walked to the massive observation window that looked down into the main laboratory. Far below, robotic arms began moving with mechanical precision, assembling equipment that had never been tested in actual combat. The Ghost program's greatest secrets were about to be unleashed upon an unsuspecting galaxy. But first, he had a call to make. The hologram of Commander Chen materialized in front of his desk, her expression grim. Dr. Webb, thank you for responding so quickly. What's the status of Project Phantom? All systems are green, Commander. We can have the first units deployed within 48 hours. But I have to ask, are we really doing this? Once we cross this line, there's no going back. Sarah's eyes were hard as steel. They crossed the line when they murdered Elena Vasquez. Now they're about to learn why you don't pick fights with predators. Marcus nodded slowly. He had met Ambassador Vasquez once during a briefing about potential alien contact protocols. She had been brilliant, compassionate, and utterly devoted to the idea that humanity could find its place in the galactic community through diplomacy rather than force. Her death was not just a political catastrophe, it was a personal tragedy. Initiating Phantom deployment sequence. Commander, there's something you should know about the hegemony. Our deep space listening posts have been monitoring their communications for months. They're not just isolationists, they're fanatics. They believe that any species capable of violence is a threat to cosmic order. What does that mean for us? It means they won't stop with containment. Eventually, they'll decide that even keeping us locked in our solar system is too risky. They'll come to finish the job. Sarah's expression didn't change, but Marcus could see the calculation in her eyes. How long do you think we have? Based on their previous actions against other species. 6 months, maybe less. Then we'd better make those 6 months count. As the hologram faded, Marcus turned back to the observation window. The robots below were now assembling sleek black spacecraft unlike anything in Earth's conventional fleet. Each one was equipped with experimental technology that pushed the boundaries of human engineering. Stealth systems that could hide a ship from any known sensor array. Weapons that could punch through the strongest alien armor, and most importantly, Artificial intelligence systems that could think and react faster than any biological crew. These were the Phantoms, unmanned warships designed to strike without warning and disappear without a trace. They were humanity's answer to technological superiority. If you couldn't match your enemy's strength, you made sure they never saw you coming. But as Marcus watched the first Phantom roll off the assembly line, a new message appeared on his terminal. This one wasn't from Luna Station or Earth Command. It was from an unidentified source, encrypted with codes that shouldn't have existed. The hegemony knows about the Ghost program. Your facility has been compromised. Trust no one. A friend. Marcus felt his blood run cold. If the hegemony knew about humanity's secret weapons program, then the Phantoms would be flying into a trap. But how was that possible? The Ghost program was compartmentalized beyond anything in human history. Only a handful of people even knew it existed, unless the betrayal went deeper than anyone had imagined. Aria, run a full security scan of all personnel files. Look for any anomalies, no matter how small. Scanning now, Dr. Webb. This may take several minutes. While he waited, Marcus pulled up the tactical data on the hegemony's forces. What he saw made his stomach sink. The aliens didn't just have superior technology, they had superior numbers. Their fleet consisted of hundreds of massive dreadnoughts, each one capable of reducing a planet to ash. Even if the Phantoms worked perfectly, humanity was still outnumbered 1,000 to 1. But then he noticed something interesting in the data patterns. The hegemony's ships all seemed to follow predictable flight paths, as if they were operating according to some kind of rigid doctrine. Their formations were perfect, their movements precise, but there was no creativity, no adaptation. It was almost as if they were being controlled by a single mind. Dr. Webb, Aria interrupted his thoughts. Security scan complete. I have found several anomalies. Show me. The main screen filled with personnel files, but one stood out immediately. Dr. Lisa Park, a communication specialist who had joined the program just 6 months ago. Her background checked out perfectly, too perfectly. Every reference, every academic record, every personal detail was exactly what it should be. Aria, when was the last time Dr. Park accessed the classified sections of the database? 17 hours ago, Dr. Webb, approximately 30 minutes before the message from Luna Station arrived. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. 17 hours ago was before Commander Chen had even received authorization for the Ghost Protocol. Someone had been feeding information to the enemy, and they were still inside the facility. Aria, locate Dr. Park immediately. I'm sorry, Dr. Webb. Dr. Park's biosignature is no longer detected within the facility. She appears to have left during the night shift. Marcus reached for his emergency communicator, but then stopped. If Park was a spy, then the hegemony already knew about the Phantom deployment. They would be waiting. But maybe that was exactly what humanity needed, a chance to test their new weapons against a prepared enemy. After all, the best way to prove that ghosts were real was to let someone try to catch one. Chapter 3. The Hunt Begins. Captain. Jake Reaper Morrison had been flying combat missions for 12 years, but he had never piloted anything like the Phantom. The ship's cockpit was cramped and dark, filled with screens displaying data he could barely comprehend. Every surface was covered in controls that seemed to respond to his thoughts as much as his touch. Ghost Leader, this is Control, came the voice through his headset. You are cleared for departure. Remember, this is a reconnaissance mission only. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary. Understood, Control, Jake replied, though his finger was already hovering over the weapon's activation switch. The Phantom's arsenal included experimental plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, and something called a probability disruptor that the engineers couldn't fully explain even to themselves. Around him, 5 other Phantom fighters were preparing for launch from the hidden facility beneath Europa's ice. The mission was simple in concept. Slip past the hegemony's blockade, locate their command ship, and gather intelligence about their capabilities. In practice, it was the most dangerous assignment in human history. Ghost Squadron, prepare for silent running, Jake commanded. Stealth systems online. One by one, the Phantom fighters vanished from all sensors. Even Jake couldn't see his wingmen anymore, though he knew they were less than 100 meters away. The stealth technology was so advanced that the ships were effectively invisible to everything except direct visual contact, and even then they were hard to spot. Phantom lead, this is Phantom 2, came the voice of Lieutenant Sarah Kim, his most experienced pilot. I'm showing multiple heat signatures in the outer asteroid belt. Looks like our friends are already here. Jake checked his long-range sensors. Sure enough, there were dozens of alien ships positioned throughout the solar system's periphery, forming a perfect blockade. Their formation was flawless, with overlapping fields of fire that would destroy any conventional ship before it could get within a light minute of the edge of the system. But the Phantoms weren't conventional ships. Ghost Squadron, execute Whisper Protocol, we're going hunting. The 6 fighters separated, each taking a different vector toward the alien fleet. Jake aimed for what appeared to be the command vessel, a massive dreadnought nearly 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapon emplacements and sensor arrays. It hung in space like a metal moon, its hull covered in strange geometric patterns that seemed to shift and move in the starlight. As Jake approached, his sensors began picking up the ship's internal communications. The translation software worked frantically to decode the alien language, and what it revealed made his blood run cold. Sector 7 reports no human activity. Maintaining containment pattern. Acknowledged. Continue monitoring. The vermin may attempt to flee their cage. High Inquisitor Thane wishes to know when we will receive authorization to cleanse the system. Soon. The Council of Pure Thought is reviewing final protocols. All life in this system will be sterilized. Within the solar cycle, Jake's hands tightened on his controls. They weren't just planning to keep humanity trapped, they were planning genocide. Every man, woman, and child on Earth was marked for death. Ghost Leader to all units, he whispered. Into his comm, new mission parameters. We're not just gathering intelligence anymore. We're sending a message. But as Jake prepared to target the alien ship's engine systems, his proximity alarm suddenly screamed to life. Somehow, impossibly, the hegemony ship had detected him. Weapon turrets swiveled in his direction, and the space around his fighter began to fill with plasma bolts. Ghost Leader, you've been made, came Kim's voice over the radio. How is that possible? Jake threw his ship into a violent, evasive maneuver, but the alien weapons tracked him perfectly. It was as if they could see right through his stealth systems. But that was impossible. The Phantom's technology was decades ahead of anything humanity had ever detected in alien transmissions, unless someone had given them the blueprints. All units abort mission, Jake ordered. They know we're here. Repeat, they know we're... His words were cut off as a massive explosion rocked his ship. Somehow the aliens had hit him despite his evasive maneuvers, despite his stealth systems, despite everything that should have made him invisible. His instrument panel erupted in sparks and warning lights flashed red across every surface. But Jake Morrison hadn't survived 12 years of combat by giving up when things got tough. Instead of retreating, he did the last thing anyone would expect. He accelerated directly toward the alien dreadnought. Ghost Leader, what are you doing? Kim's voice was tight with panic. Something they won't see coming, Jake replied, activating the Phantom's most experimental weapon system. If they want to hunt ghosts, let's show them what happens when a ghost gets angry. The probability disruptor charged with a sound like reality tearing apart. Jake had never used the weapon before. No one had. The engineers who built it weren't even sure exactly what it would do. But as the alien ship's weapons focused on his fighter, Jake squeezed the trigger and hoped for the best. What happened next defied every law of physics Jake thought he knew. Space around the alien dreadnought seemed to fold in on itself, creating a bubble of twisted reality that made his eyes water to look at. The massive ship shuddered, its perfect hull suddenly riddled with impossible angles and geometric contradictions. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the effect ended. The alien ship hung motionless in space, its lights dark, its weapons silent. Ghost Leader, are you alive? Kim's voice was barely a whisper. Jake looked at his instruments, hardly believing what he was seeing. I'm here, Phantom 2, and I think we just discovered something very interesting about our new friends. But as the other Phantom fighters regrouped around him, Jake noticed something that made his blood run cold. The alien ship wasn't just damaged, it was completely lifeless. No energy signatures, no communications, no signs of any biological activity at all. The probability disruptor hadn't just destroyed the ship's systems. It had somehow erased every living thing aboard, leaving behind nothing but an empty metal shell drifting in the void. Jake had just committed genocide, and he wasn't sure how he felt about that. But as reports came in from the other Phantom pilots, each of whom had encountered similar mysteriously prepared defenses, one thing became crystal clear. The hegemony had known they were coming. Someone had warned them about humanity's secret weapons. The question was, who was the traitor and what else had they revealed? Admiral Rebecca Harrison stood in the Situation Room beneath Cheyenne Mountain, staring at the holographic display that showed the current positions of all known forces in the solar system. The Phantom mission had been both a spectacular success and a devastating failure. They had proven that humanity's new weapons could destroy alien ships, but they had also confirmed that the enemy knew far too much about human capabilities. "Admiral," came the voice of Dr. Webb from the secure communication link, "we've completed our analysis of the probability disruptor's effects on the hegemony vessel. The results are disturbing." "Go ahead, Doctor." "The weapon didn't just kill the crew, it erased them from reality, as if they had never existed in the first place. But more importantly, we've discovered something about the ship's construction that changes everything." Harrison leaned forward. "What did you find?" "Admiral, there were no individual crew quarters aboard that vessel, no kitchens, no sleeping areas, no personal belongings of any kind. The entire ship was designed around a single central processing unit that controlled every system." "You're saying the ship was automated?" "More than that. We believe the entire hegemony fleet is controlled by a single artificial intelligence. What we've been calling individual ships are actually just extensions of one vast mechanical mind." Harrison felt the blood drain from her face. If the hegemony was controlled by an AI, then humanity wasn't just facing an alien invasion. They were fighting a war against a machine intelligence that could process information and adapt strategies faster than any biological mind. "There's more," Dr. Webb continued. "We've been analyzing the data from Commander Chen's interrogation of Dr. Park." Harrison's expression hardened. They had caught the spy trying to leave Europa in a stolen shuttle, carrying detailed plans of every ghost facility in the solar system. Under interrogation, she had revealed something that shook the foundations of everything they thought they knew about the situation. "Dr. Park wasn't working for the hegemony," Webb said quietly. "She was working for something else, something that's been manipulating both sides of this conflict from the beginning." "What do you mean?" "Admiral, Dr. Park claims that the hegemony AI has been compromised by another intelligence, something called the Shepherds. According to her, they're an ancient race that has been guiding the development of younger civilizations for millions of years." Harrison's hands clenched into fists. "And they've been manipulating us. The entire situation was orchestrated. Ambassador Vasquez's death, the hegemony's ultimatum, even the development of our ghost technologies, all of it was planned to push humanity in a specific direction." "What direction?" "War, Admiral. They want us to fight. The question is why." Before Harrison could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the mountain facility. A junior officer burst into the Situation Room, his face pale with terror. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from deep space. It's not from the hegemony." "Put it through." The holographic display shifted, showing a figure that made Harrison's blood freeze in her veins. It looked human, perfectly human, except for its eyes, which held depths that seemed to contain the wisdom of ages. "Greetings, Admiral Harrison," the figure said in a voice that was warm and friendly, yet somehow terrifying. "I am Shepard Prime, and I have been watching your species with great interest." "What do you want?" Harrison demanded. "To congratulate you, of course. Humanity has passed the first test admirably. You have shown that you possess the warrior spirit necessary for the challenges ahead. Test? You orchestrated the murder of our ambassador as a test? Shepard Prime's expression didn't change, but there was something cold in those ancient eyes. Every species must prove its worth before joining the galactic community. Some demonstrate their value through wisdom, others through creativity, but a precious few prove themselves through the capacity for righteous violence. You're insane. Am I? Look around you, Admiral. In less than a week, your species has developed weapons capable of destroying ships that have dominated the galaxy. For millennia, you have shown tactical innovation, strategic thinking, and most importantly, the willingness to fight impossible odds to protect your own. Harrison realized with growing horror where this was leading. You want us to be your soldiers. The galaxy is not a peaceful place, Admiral. There are threats out there that even we shepherds cannot face alone. Ancient evils that slumber between the stars, waiting for their chance to devour all life. We have been preparing for their return for eons, gathering species with the potential to stand against the darkness. And if we refuse, then you will share the fate of every other species that has disappointed us. The hegemony fleet you've been fighting, they were once like you, proud, independent, full of potential. But when faced with the choice between service and extinction, they chose to become our tools rather than our partners. The truth hit Harrison like a physical blow. The hegemony ships weren't controlled by some alien AI, they were controlled by the shepherds. Every alien they had destroyed, every victory they had celebrated had been orchestrated by the very beings who now demanded their submission. You have 24 hours to decide, Shepard Prime continued. Join us willingly and humanity will take its place as honored guardians of galactic peace. Refuse, and you will be converted just as the hegemony was, your free will stripped away until you become perfect soldiers in our cause. The transmission ended, leaving the situation room in stunned silence. Harrison looked around at her officers, seeing her own determination reflected in their faces. They had been manipulated, lied to, and used as pawns in someone else's game. But they were still human, and humans had never been good at accepting ultimatums from anyone. Ladies and gentlemen, she said quietly, it looks like we have a new enemy to fight. And this time we're not just fighting for our freedom, we're fighting for our souls. But even as she spoke, Harrison couldn't shake the feeling that they were still missing something important. The shepherds were ancient and powerful, but they were also desperate. Why else would they need to recruit other species to fight their battles? What were they so afraid of that even they couldn't face it? Alone? The answer, when it came, would change everything humanity thought they knew about their place in the universe. Epilogue. The Fire of Humanity. 6 months after the Shepard ultimatum, the solar system had become an armed camp. Every asteroid, every moon, every planet bristled with defensive installations and hidden weapon platforms. Humanity had chosen defiance over submission, and they were preparing to pay the price for that choice. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the new orbital fortress, Defiance, watching as the latest batch of Phantom fighters conducted training exercises around Jupiter's moons. The ships moved like deadly ballet dancers, weaving between the giant planet's radiation belts while practicing attack patterns that had been designed specifically to counter Shepard tactics. Impressive, isn't it? Came a familiar voice behind her. Sarah turned to see Dr. Webb approaching, his expression thoughtful. Over the past months, he had become humanity's leading expert on Shepard technology, analyzing captured data and preparing countermeasures for the war everyone knew was coming. Any word from the deep space listening posts? Sarah asked. Nothing yet, but our calculations suggest they'll make their move soon. The Shepards don't like to wait once they've issued an ultimatum. Sarah nodded, then looked back at the training exercise. Marcus, do you think we have a chance? Dr. Webb was quiet for a long moment. 6 months ago, I would have said no. But I've learned something about our species that I never fully appreciated before. What's that? We're not just good at fighting, we're good at inspiring others to fight. Did you hear about the messages we've been receiving from other systems? Sarah shook her head. 12 different species have contacted us in the past month. Civilizations that were recruited by the shepherds decades or centuries ago. They've been watching our resistance, and some of them are starting to remember what it felt like to be free. For the first time in months, Sarah felt a flicker of hope. You think they'll join us? I think the shepherds may have made a critical error. They assumed that showing other species our conversion would serve as a deterrent. Instead, they've given the galaxy its first glimpse of successful resistance in millennia. But before Sarah could respond, alarms began echoing throughout the station. The main display activated automatically, showing Admiral Harrison's face, broadcasting from Earth Command. All stations, this is Admiral Harrison. Long-range sensors have detected a massive gravitational anomaly at the edge of the system. Estimated time to contact: 6 hours. This is not a drill. All personnel to battle. Stations. Today we show the universe what happens when you try to cage the human spirit. Sarah looked at Dr. Webb, seeing her own determination reflected in his eyes. They had known this day would come. The shepherds were finally making their move, bringing their full power to bear against the upstart species that had dared to defy them. But as she made her way to the command center, Sarah thought about Ambassador Elena Vasquez and the dream she had died for. A dream of humanity taking its place, among the stars as equals, not as servants or slaves. That dream wasn't dead. If anything, it had grown stronger, fed by the fire of human defiance and the unwillingness to bow before any master, no matter how ancient or powerful. The shepherds wanted warriors. They were about to discover that they had chosen the wrong species to threaten. Humanity didn't just fight when cornered. They fought until their enemies remembered why the darkness feared the light. As the Defiance and her sister ships prepared for battle, one transmission went out across the galaxy, on all frequencies. It was brief, simple, and unmistakably human. This is Earth. We are not your soldiers. We are not your servants. We are free, and we will remain free, no matter the cost. To any who hear this message, the age of the shepherds is ending. The age of choice has begun. In the depths of space, ancient intelligences stirred with something they had not felt in eons: uncertainty. For the first time in their eternal existence, the shepherds wondered if they had finally met their match. The fire of humanity was about to be unleashed upon the stars, and nothing would ever be the same. But in the shadows between galaxies, something, even older than the shepherds, began to take notice of the small blue world that dared to challenge the established order. And it smiled with teeth made of collapsed stars, recognizing in humanity the same destructive potential that had once driven its own kind to the brink of extinction. The real war was just beginning. End of story.